I hope you can hear me because I can hardly hear a thing right now. It's summer and I've been swimming in the pool a lot, and I think I must have some wax built up in my ears, especially this ear here. A couple of days ago, I got out of the pool and then my ears were really clogged up and I really felt like I'd gone deaf. So I was using the earwax removal kit that you buy at the store, and normally I've used that over the years and it's usually worked pretty well, but this time didn't work at all. It did eliminate some of the wax, but I think the water from the pool must have gotten stuck behind the wax, because when I talk, it really sounds to me like I'm underwater when I'm speaking. So I'm heading out to the ear doctor. I got an appointment. When I originally called, they said they would try to get me in about a month. And I said, well, I'm pretty much deaf right now, so I need to get in immediately. This is sort of an emergency. And so they were able to get me in a couple of days. So I'm entering there now. Never been there before, never had my ears checked. So I made an appointment to clean out any earwax and then just to check my ears and also to check my hearing. Maybe I need a hearing aid. Maybe it's time for a hearing aid. I don't know. Let's hope not, but I definitely need to go find out, one way or the other. Any of you guys have problems with too much earwax and hearing problems in general? I guess that kind of goes with getting older, right? As much as I love swimming in the pool, it definitely is not that great for my ears. It's not that great for my eyes, my red eyes, the chlorine. Even though I don't open my eyes underwater, you still do get water in your eyes. But first things first, right now I just need to find out what's wrong with my hearing, and hopefully it's just earwax. Now, I haven't been to this ear doctor here at Desert Regional. This is where I go for my eye appointments, but I've never been here for the ear doctor. So it's in this plaza here, the El Mirador Medical Plaza, and I just park underneath the garage. It's free. It's easy and nice. I like that everything here is just so convenient and easy. Parking's free, always pretty easy to find a place. Do any of you have hearing aids? Any problems with your hearing? Jim blew his ears out just almost completely, or at least one of his ears, back when he was, I think, a teenager, listening to heavy metal music. I think he really likes at least he used to, I don't know if he does anymore, but he used to love the heavy metal type of music. Glad I never did. My musical tastes lean more, as most of you know, to Doris Day and Karen Carpenter, so no chance of blowing out my eardrums from the music. Although I do remember going to one of my very first concerts was the Bee Gees back in, I think it was the late 60s or early 70s at the Anaheim Convention Center, and they had just opened. The convention center was one of their first concerts, I think. And for some reason, Vanilla Fudge was the opening act. Remember Vanilla Fudge? Well, they were sort of a heavy metal band, and I just remember being so loud, and I almost lost my hearing before the Bee Gees came on. That's the only time I ever really remember going to a concert and having a really bad experience with my ears. That was an awful experience, so thank you, Vanilla Fudge, for almost blowing out my eardrums. Any damage that I do have to my ears, I blame you. Although I did spend a lot of time in the discos in the 1970s and 80s, and the music was really loud, so it's a wonder that I don't have hearing aids already. I think that what saved me is that I seem to have a lot of earwax buildup, and so maybe my ears have just always had so much wax that it's protected my eardrums. I don't know, I'm just guessing. A week or so ago, subscriber April Wine left this comment asking if Jim and I like the same music, and if we listen to music around the house, and if we listen to the radio. So thank you, April, for the great questions. About the only time I listen to music anymore is when I'm in the car, and I pretty much just listen to oldies music. I've created a few different Spotify channels with all of my favorite songs, from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s mostly. The music that I grew up listening to is still my favorite. Jim, on the other hand, listens to music all the time. We both walk a couple of miles every day, but he can't walk without listening to music. When I walk, I just want to listen to the sounds of nature. So they're still requiring masks here in the hospital, which I think is still a good idea. When I was a kid, I listened to the radio all of the time, but now as an adult, I just enjoy the peace and quiet more. Before I have my hearing tested, I need to have my ears cleaned, and I'm here at the ear doctor and I can't help but laugh looking at the doctor's pretty awesome collection of rock and roll memorabilia. I bet half of his clients are probably here because they went to one too many loud concerts put on by the rock and rollers on these walls. Pretty ironic, isn't it? I wonder if the doctor wears a hearing aid. I do also like groups like Led Zeppelin and The Doors and Jimi Hendrix, but I'm glad now that I didn't go to any of their concerts. So it turns out that my left ear especially was pretty impacted with earwax, and they were able to, I guess now they just suck it out. I remember years ago when I had this done, in fact the only other time I've had it done, since then I've just done it myself with the over-the-counter solution, but when I had it done 30 years ago or so, they put in drops and then they used the, I guess what do they call it, Sauvage or something, it was water, and they used water to get it out, and she said they don't do that anymore. Apparently it can cause issues and problems of its own, so now they have tools that they use just to suck it out, and I guess in the left ear it was pretty impacted, and so I'm glad they got that out. So hopefully that won't be an issue now with me swimming in the pool. Getting water trapped between my eardrum and the earwax. I also had a hearing test, and that was my first hearing test. It was so interesting in a soundproof booth, and it seemed pretty sophisticated, and it took about a half hour. It was pretty involved. And it looks like I have mild to moderate hearing loss, about the same in each ear. But apparently, I guess there was one of the other tests that came back at 96%, which was pretty good. I mean, it wasn't 99%, but it was still really high. And I think she was saying that maybe that was hearing the pitch of voices. And she says, there might be certain voices where because of the pitch that I wouldn't be able to hear. Or no, maybe that was the other test. I don't know. There were so many different types of tests that they did. But overall, she said, I don't need a hearing aid at this point. She said some people might get a hearing aid at this point, but I said, as far as I can tell, I thought my hearing was maybe 100% other than what happened, with the earwax and the water in the pool the other day where I couldn't hear anything. But normally, I feel like my hearing is really good, for my age especially. I don't have issues hearing anybody usually. The only thing is with TV, sometimes when we turn up the volume, we've got it up to 40, 50, even 60% on the volume. She said she has the same issue. She said, and we were talking about it and we agreed that, it depends on what channel you're listening to. Netflix tends to be, you have to turn it up really high to hear, or maybe cable TV, you have it really low. So it's all over the place. I think if I always had to have it up at 60 or 70% on every channel to hear what was going on, then yeah, maybe there would be an issue. But most of the time, I have the volume in the 30s, 40s, and again, it just depends on the channel and what I'm watching. If it's a movie or a TV show, and if it's on actual TV, on cable, or if it's on one of the streaming channels, because they're all just so different. And she agreed. She said, yeah, it's no longer a good gauge of how your hearing is going. Or I guess in the old days, TV would be a very good way to tell if your hearing was getting worse or not, because we pretty much only had a few channels and they were all broadcast in the same way, and the quality was all pretty much the same. Now quality is just all over the place, and there isn't a lot of quality when it comes to audio on TV. So she did recommend coming back in for another hearing test, an annual hearing test, and that's a great idea. I'm definitely going to start doing that. I haven't done that before. So, and she said sometimes, in 1 year, it can change dramatically. So we'll see. It'll be a good gauge to see annually how much my hearing changes, if it changes at all. For right now, though, no hearing aid necessary, but I may have to come in periodically to have my earwax cleaned out if it continues the way it has in the past. I just have, I think, an overactive earwax producing ears. So for right now, it looks like all is good.